Rain pelted the crumbling palace like shards of glass. Ash and dust hung heavy in the air, mixing with the acrid smell of burning wood and stone. Kale crouched behind a fractured pillar, his heart hammering in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but he couldn't. Not yet. Not when she was still inside. Her name was Leora, the red-haired girl with a crown slightly askew, her eyes fierce, defiant, even as the world around her fell apart. She had been trapped in the palace's main hall when the enemy struck, some monstrous, unknown force that left the once grand fortress in ruins. Kale could see her through the shattered windows, standing alone amid falling beams and collapsing archways. "Leora," he yelled, voice raw, but the wind carried it away before it reached her. His hand clutched the worn leather strap of his satchel, the one containing a few essentials, enough for a survival run, but not enough to fight off the shadowy creatures rumored to roam these lands. He didn't care. He had to get to her. Kale's mind raced. He remembered the first time he had met her months ago in the forest that bordered the ruined city. She had appeared out of nowhere, a flame-haired vision in a red cape, arguing fiercely with the guards about something he didn't understand. But there was courage in her eyes and a stubborn kindness that had drawn him in immediately. And now, seeing her standing there in the chaos, he felt the same pull, the same need to protect her, no matter the cost. The palace shuddered again. A massive chunk of the ceiling gave way, sending stone and timber crashing into the hall below. Kale's stomach dropped. He froze for a heartbeat, his legs trembling. He could see her flinch, ducking instinctively, but the debris was relentless. Then a smaller fragment hit her shoulder, knocking her sideways. Kale's breath caught. He didn't wait. He sprinted forward across the slick, uneven ground, dodging fallen columns and twisted metal. Rain blurred his vision and dust choked his lungs, but he ignored it all. Halfway across the yard, he stumbled over a slab of concrete. Pain shot up his leg, but he scrambled forward, teeth gritted. Every instinct in him screamed to turn back, to survive, but he couldn't leave her. She was alone, and he would be damned if he let her face this alone. From somewhere deep inside the palace, a scream echoed, a scream that didn't sound entirely human. Kale's chest tightened. That sound, it was getting closer. He didn't know what lurked in the shadows of the ruined walls, only that whatever it was, it would kill anyone foolish enough to remain in its path. "Leora," he shouted again, his voice cracking. This time she looked at him. Relief and fear battled in her eyes. She raised a hand, trying to gesture him back, but Kale ignored it. He moved faster, weaving between debris until he was beneath the shattered balcony where she had landed moments ago. A beam above him creaked ominously. Dust rained down. Kale's heart pounded, a rhythm of pure adrenaline. He reached out, grabbing her hand. She grabbed back, and for a brief, terrible moment they were frozen, suspended in the chaos. Then the palace shuddered again, louder, stronger, as if it sensed their defiance. A massive crack split the floor beneath them. Kale barely caught Leora, pulling her down just as the stone and wood above them gave way. They rolled together, tangled in dust and rain, gasping. Kale looked into her brown eyes, damp with grime and streaked with tears. "I've got you," he whispered, though his voice sounded small against the roar of the crumbling walls. She didn't answer, only nodded, her grip tightening on his hand. But the danger wasn't over. From somewhere deeper in the palace, a shadow moved, slow, deliberate, watching, waiting. Kale didn't know what it was, but he knew it wanted them dead. And as the rain turned the rubble into slick, treacherous paths, he realized something. Saving her would cost him everything. And he was ready to pay. Kale's boots slipped on the wet rubble as he helped Leora to her feet. Her cape was torn, streaked with mud and blood, but her eyes, sharp, defiant, burning, never wavered from his. For a moment the world felt suspended, caught between the chaos of falling stone and the storm above. "We need to move," Kale said, voice low but urgent. He scanned the ruin around them. The palace, once a towering symbol of power, now looked like a carcass. Walls were jagged, windows shattered, and the roof was nothing but a skeleton above their heads. Every second they lingered, more of it threatened to crush them. Leora nodded, adjusting the small crown that had somehow survived the destruction. "The lower halls, there's a way out," she said, her voice trembling slightly despite her effort to remain composed. "Follow me." She led him through a narrow corridor, twisted beams scraping the sides, rain dripping through cracks in the ceiling. Kale kept his hand brushing hers, an instinctive gesture of reassurance, though neither spoke. The sound of distant cracking echoed through the hall, like the palace itself was alive and angry. Then came the first real surprise. Around a corner, Kale froze. A pair of eyes glowed from the shadows, a creature massive and hunched with limbs too long to be human. Its breath hissed like fire, and the air smelled of rot and wet stone. Leora gasped, but Kale didn't hesitate. "Stay behind me," he said, heart hammering. The creature lunged fast, almost impossibly fast. Kale grabbed a loose beam, swinging it like a club. The creature recoiled, snarling, but didn't retreat. Leora grabbed a shard of broken metal, her fingers white around it. "Kale, watch out!" she shouted. He dodged a swipe of claws that could have torn him apart in an instant. His training, learned in the wastelands outside the city, kicked in, strike, dodge, strike again. The creature hissed and retreated into the shadows, disappearing into the maze of ruin. Kale exhaled sharply. "It's not gone," he said, scanning the hall. "We have to keep moving." Leora's hand brushed his arm as they moved. You didn't even hesitate," she whispered. Her voice carried something deeper than admiration, fear mixed with awe, and something that made Kale's chest tighten. They reached a collapsed staircase that led to a lower chamber. Kale tested the rubble. It was unstable but passable. "Hold on tight," he warned and helped her down. They slid, twisted, and almost fell into the darkness below. The chamber was different. A strange blue light flickered from broken lanterns, casting eerie shadows. Old murals lined the walls, depicting humans and alien creatures standing together, rulers and citizens united in a world that had long vanished. Kale's stomach knotted. Whoever built this palace, they weren't just human. There was something else here, something powerful, hidden. Suddenly, Leora stopped. "Do you feel that?" she asked, voice barely audible. The hair on Kale's arm stood up. The air thrummed like it carried a heartbeat that wasn't theirs. Before he could answer, a low, guttural sound echoed through the chamber. Shadows stretched across the walls, moving independently of the flickering lanterns. From the darkness, several creatures emerged, pale and sinewy, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Kale stepped in front of Leora, gripping the hilt of a knife he had tucked in his vest. His fingers shook, but his resolve did not. "Stay behind me," he repeated. One creature lunged, faster than the eye could follow. Kale sidestepped and slashed, connecting with a wet thud. Another approached, and this time Leora acted. She thrust her metal shard into its side, forcing it back. Together they fought, instinct and desperation guiding their movements. When the last creature fell, the chamber fell silent, save for their ragged breathing. Kale turned to Leora, and for a brief moment they locked eyes, relief, fear, and something else swirling between them. Something fragile, new, and incredibly dangerous. Trust. "We're not safe yet," Kale said, voice heavy but calm. "But we're closer." Leora nodded, brushing debris from her cape. "Then let's finish this. There's a way out of the ruins, I know it, and I trust you to get me there." Kale's chest tightened at the words. She wasn't just trusting him with her life. She was trusting him with her fear, her hope, and something deeper he couldn't name yet. As they moved toward the next passage, the blue light flickered, revealing a massive door carved from black stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its edges. Kale reached for the handle. Something whispered in his mind, something ancient, warning him not to open it. But Leora's grip on his hand was firm, unyielding. "We have to," she said. "Whatever's behind this, it's our only chance." And with a deep breath, Kale pushed. The door groaned, dust swirled. A chill swept through the chamber, and somewhere deep behind it, something stirred. The massive black door creaked open, revealing a chamber bathed in strange, golden light. Dust hung in the air like floating sparks. Kale shielded his eyes, squinting against the glow. Leora stepped forward, her red cape brushing against broken stone, her tiara catching the light and scattering tiny reflections across the walls. The chamber was alive, not with creatures but with memory. Holographic images flickered in the air, people walking, laughing, training, and governing. The palace's former glory pulsed around them as if it remembered itself. Kale's heart pounded. He had heard of such places in legends, lost halls of power where the very walls held magic, but he never imagined one still existed, hidden beneath ruin. This is incredible, Leora whispered. Her brown eyes widened as she traced a glowing figure of a woman in a flowing robe, arms raised as if in command. This was my family, my kingdom. Her voice cracked, a mixture of awe and heartbreak. Kale's hand brushed hers. We'll get through this, he said softly, whatever it takes. Before they could step further, the floor trembled beneath them. The chamber shivered, and the golden images flickered violently. From the shadows, a low growl rolled across the room, shaking Kale to his core. The creatures from the lower halls appeared again, but this time they weren't alone. Towering behind them was a figure cloaked in black, eyes glowing the same eerie blue as the palace murals. Its presence radiated a cold, controlling power, and even Kale felt it pressing against his chest. You shouldn't have come here, the figure intoned, voice echoing like thunder. No human survives what waits beyond. Kale stepped in front of Leora, fists clenched. We survive, we always survive. The figure moved like liquid shadow, and Kale felt the air shift. One of the pale creatures lunged at him. He dodged, barely, and slashed with his knife. The creature collapsed, but the others pressed forward. Leora, trembling but determined, grabbed a shard of glowing crystal from the chamber floor. The moment she touched it, it pulsed with energy, and the creatures shrieked, recoiling. Kale's jaw dropped. Where did you get that? Leora's lips trembled, but she held the crystal high. It called to me, she said. Her eyes met Kale's, and for a heartbeat the world stopped. The storm outside, the collapsing palace, the monsters, it all vanished. Just the two of them in the glow of power, connected by trust, by survival, by something more profound than either dared to name. Kale took a step closer. Then we use it, we get out together. Suddenly the cloaked figure moved again, faster than thought. The crystal in Leora's hand flared, and Kale realized it wasn't just light, it was a shield. Beams of energy shot out, slamming the shadow back. The creatures screeched, scattering. Kale grabbed Leora's other hand, holding on as the chamber shook violently. You have power, the figure hissed. But power is not enough. The palace demands a price. Kale felt the walls bend, as if alive, closing in. Dust choked the air, and the floor groaned beneath their feet. Leora's grip tightened, her brown eyes wide with fear and determination. Then we pay it, she said. The black-cloaked figure vanished into the shadows, leaving only the creatures behind. Kale pulled Leora toward the chamber's far exit, dodging falling debris. Each step was treacherous. Each heartbeat was a defiance against the world that tried to crush them. At the exit, a gaping chasm yawned. Beyond it, a spiraling staircase led upward to freedom or perhaps to more danger. Kale looked at Leora. We jump, he said simply. No hesitation, no second-guessing, just trust. Leora hesitated. For a brief moment, terror flickered across her face. Then she looked at Kale, the man who had risked everything to reach her, who had fought beside her, who had kept her alive when the palace itself had tried to kill her. She nodded. Together they leapt. The wind screamed around them, and for an instant they were weightless. Kale felt her hand in his, holding on, alive, defiant, human. They landed hard on the next level, tumbling across broken stone but unbroken in spirit. Leora laughed, a sharp, incredulous laugh filled with relief and adrenaline. Kale grinned, breathless. You're crazy, he said. And you like it, she shot back, her grin fierce, her hair plastered to her face. But the laughter faded as a shadow passed overhead, a reminder that the cloaked figure wasn't gone. The palace still watched, the palace still hunted, and the deeper they went, the more dangerous the game became. Kale helped Leora to her feet, brushing dust from her cape. Whatever comes next, he said, voice low but steady, we face it together, always. Leora's hand stayed in his. Always, she echoed. Somewhere deep in the palace, a faint rumble signaled another collapse, and Kale knew they weren't out of danger yet. Kale and Leora climbed the spiraling staircase cautiously, their boots echoing on fractured stone. Each step was precarious. The palace seemed alive, groaning and shifting with every movement. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain, and shadows danced across the walls, stretching unnaturally. Do you think we'll make it out? Leora whispered, her voice tight, laced with exhaustion and fear. Kale glanced at her, wiping a streak of grime from her cheek. "We have to," he said firmly. "I won't let anything happen to you." His hand brushed hers, lingering a moment longer than necessary. He saw a flicker of something, trust, gratitude, something more, and it bolstered his courage. The staircase ended in a circular chamber with a domed ceiling. At its center stood a pedestal, ancient and carved from black stone. On it rested a crystal pulsating with golden light, similar to the one Leora had wielded before. But this one hummed differently. It seemed to thrum with life. Leora stepped forward, eyes wide. It's calling me," she murmured. Kale's instinct screamed caution. "Wait, something's wrong. The last one almost killed us." But she didn't listen. Her hand hovered over the crystal. The moment she touched it, a wave of energy coursed through the chamber. The murals on the walls glowed, depicting scenes Kale had never imagined. Humans and alien figures working together to build cities, defend kingdoms, and wield unimaginable power. "The palace remembers," Kale breathed, awe in his voice. "It remembers everything, your people, your family." Suddenly, the black-cloaked figure appeared at the chamber's entrance, eyes blazing blue. "You dare touch what is forbidden?" it roared, voice shaking the air like a storm. Kale stepped in front of Leora instinctively, fists tight. "We're not afraid of you," he said. "You don't own this place. It's not yours to control." The figure laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "You are nothing but flesh and blood, weak, fragile. You cannot withstand the palace." Kale's heart pounded, but he didn't flinch. His gaze locked on Leora's. "Together," he said. She nodded. With that, they acted. Leora lifted the crystal, the light expanding to fill the room. Kale drew a deep breath, then grabbed a fallen stone shard, holding it like a sword. The black figure surged forward, bringing the creatures behind it. Kale moved with precision, striking, dodging, protecting Leora. Every blow from him sent the creatures staggering back, but the figure advanced, moving with impossible speed. Leora channeled the crystal's energy, forming a shield of golden light around them. Sparks flew. The room shook. Then, unexpectedly, the crystal pulsed violently, and the palace itself seemed to respond. The murals on the walls animated fully, soldiers, warriors, and citizens appearing in ghostly form, rising to defend the chamber. Kale staggered back in disbelief. "It's helping us." Leora's eyes shone. "It's alive, it wants us to survive." The black figure screamed in frustration, its form flickering. Kale and Leora fought side by side, their movements synchronized almost instinctively. For every strike, every lunge, every shadowy attack, they countered with courage, with trust, with the raw tenacity of humans who refuse to be broken. At one point, Kale was knocked to the ground. Leora's hand shot out, grabbing his, pulling him up with a strength that surprised even him. "You won't leave me," she yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I won't leave you," Kale spat back, energy renewed. Together, they pressed forward, driving the figure toward the center of the chamber, toward the crystal. With one final surge, the figure collided with the glowing stone, and a blinding light filled the room. The black-cloaked figure shrieked, twisting, then vanished into nothingness. The creatures dissolved into shadows and mist. The chamber fell silent. Dust floated in the golden glow. Kale and Leora stood panting, hands still clasped, bodies trembling from exhaustion. Leora looked at Kale, a mixture of awe and relief in her brown eyes. We did it," she whispered. Kale shook his head, a tired grin spreading across his face. "No," he said softly, "we survived together." For the first time, the palace seemed peaceful, almost reverent. The golden light bathed the chamber, revealing a staircase leading upward. This time it promised something different, not just escape, but a chance at a new beginning. Kale brushed dust from Leora's cape and tilted her chin up gently. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Her lips curved into a small, exhausted smile. "Home with you." He squeezed her hand. "Always." As they ascended, the palace groaned one last time, almost like a sigh. But deep inside, a faint whisper lingered, a promise of challenges still ahead. Kale and Leora had survived. They had won a battle no one else could, and together they were unstoppable. Kale and Leora stepped out of the palace ruins into the pale light of dawn. The storm had passed, leaving the city in a ghostly silence. Streets were fractured, buildings half collapsed, and smoke drifted from scattered fires. The world beyond the palace was not peaceful. It was raw, broken, and unforgiving. Leora paused, her red cape brushing against the rubble. She scanned the horizon, brown eyes wide with awe and caution. I thought the palace was the worst of it," she whispered. "But this—" Kale followed her gaze. The city looked like it had been abandoned for decades, yet signs of life lingered, scavengers moving cautiously, shadows flitting between broken buildings. "It's worse," he admitted, keeping his voice low. "But it's not hopeless. We survive, that's what humans do." Leora's hand found his. "You really mean that?" He tightened his grip. "Every word. I wouldn't have risked everything for you if I didn't." Her cheeks warmed, and she looked away, brushing a strand of red hair from her face. For a brief moment, they simply stood there, connected by the quiet intensity of survival, each heartbeat tethered to the other. Then a sudden noise cut through the calm, a metallic clang followed by a low, guttural growl. Kale's instincts kicked in immediately. He pulled Leora behind a fallen wall, peering cautiously. From the ruins, a gang of scavengers emerged, armed with jagged weapons and desperate eyes. "Stay close," he whispered. "We can't fight them all." Leora nodded, and together they moved through the streets, keeping to the shadows, dodging debris and broken structures. Despite the danger, Kale noticed her confidence growing. She had survived the palace. She could survive this, and yet he couldn't shake the urge to protect her. Always. They ducked into a narrow alley, catching their breath. Leora's voice was soft but urgent. "Kale, the crystal, we have to use it, not just to survive, but to find others, to protect." Kale considered it. The power they had witnessed inside the palace was incredible, but unpredictable. "It's risky," he said, "but maybe you're right." They pressed forward, moving carefully through the ruined city. As they went, Kale noticed subtle signs of hope. A small garden sprouting amid rubble, a stray dog scavenging for food, graffiti marking safe passages. Life persisted even in this desolation. Suddenly, a shout echoed from the other side of a collapsed street. "Stop! Thieves!" A group of survivors emerged, cornering a younger boy. Kale and Leora didn't hesitate. Kale sprinted forward, pulling the boy out of the way as one of the scavengers lunged. Leora raised her crystal, and a wave of golden light through the attacker's back. The boy looked at them wide-eyed. Who are you?" he asked. Kale knelt, brushing dust from the boy's torn shirt. "Friends," he said simply, "and you're safe now." The golden light faded, leaving a calm glow in its place. Leora's hand lingered on Kale's shoulder, grounding him. For the first time in days, they weren't just surviving, they were making a difference. "Kale," Leora said, voice trembling slightly, "we can help more people, we can." She paused, swallowing hard. "We can rebuild something better." Kale felt a surge of pride and something deeper, a protective, fierce affection he hadn't allowed himself to name yet. "We will," he said, taking her hand. "But we do it together, always." The boy pointed to a distant hill where smoke rose. "There's a settlement not far, they might take us in." Kale and Leora exchanged a glance. It was a chance, maybe the first real chance to survive and grow stronger. But the city was still dangerous, the scavengers weren't gone, and rumors of something far worse than them circulated in hushed tones. As they began moving toward the settlement, Kale looked down at Leora, her hair streaked with dust and rain, her brown eyes full of determination. "We're not just running anymore," he said. "We're choosing our path, and nothing will make me let you go." Leora squeezed his hand, a silent promise. "And I won't let you go either." Above them, the sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows across the broken city. The world outside was harsh and merciless. But for the first time, Kale realized something extraordinary. Humans could endure anything, especially when they fought together. But somewhere in the distance, Kale felt it, a pulse of energy, faint but unmistakable, like the palace calling. And he knew the greatest danger wasn't behind them, it was ahead. The settlement rose like a fragile promise amid the ruins, a cluster of makeshift buildings, tents, and wooden barricades. Smoke curled lazily from small fires, and the hum of life felt almost unreal after the desolation of the palace and the empty city streets. Kale and Leora approached cautiously, eyes alert, hearts racing. "Stay close," Kale whispered, scanning for threats. Though the settlement seemed peaceful, he knew appearances could be deceiving. "Not everyone out here is friendly." Leora nodded, her hand brushing against his. The warmth of her touch steadied him. For the first time in days, he felt a flicker of hope. "We'll be fine," she said softly. "Together." A guard, rough-faced and armed with a crossbow, stepped forward. "Halt, who are you?" Kale held up his hands, keeping them visible. "Travelers," he said. "We're not here to fight, just looking for shelter and people to help." The guard's eyes narrowed. "You carry the light." He glanced at the faint glow still lingering in Leora's crystal. "Not many humans can wield that anymore." Leora's grip tightened on the crystal. "It's not a weapon," she said firmly. "It's a chance to protect people." The guard studied them for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Follow me, you'll need to speak with the council." Inside the settlement, life buzzed with energy. Children playing near rubble, women and men repairing structures, and small gardens showing signs of survival. Kale and Leora exchanged glances, both struck by how fragile yet resilient humanity was. The council chamber was a simple wooden structure. 3 elders, faces lined with age and hardship, waited. One of them, a woman with streaks of silver in her hair, spoke first. "You carry power," she said, eyes sharp. "The palace is not meant to be touched by human hands. Why?" Leora stepped forward, her voice steady despite exhaustion. "Because it has to be," she said. "The palace tried to destroy me, to destroy us, but it also gave us a way to protect others. I won't stand by while people suffer." The council murmured among themselves. Kale placed a hand on Leora's shoulder, lending quiet support. "She's right," he said. "We've seen what it can do, and we know how to survive it. With guidance, we can help this settlement, maybe even more." The elders exchanged glances, weighing their words carefully. Finally, the silver-haired woman nodded. "Then you are welcome. But know this, the world outside is cruel. The palace is not the only danger. Others will come. Some will want what you carry, others will want you dead." Kale's jaw tightened. "We've faced worse," he said, "and we'll face whatever comes next, together." Leora's hand found his again. "Together," she echoed. Days passed as they integrated into the settlement. Kale trained with the defenders, teaching strategy and survival skills. Leora shared her knowledge of the palace's secrets, the power she had glimpsed, and the ways to wield it responsibly. Slowly, they began to build trust with the settlers, proving themselves not just survivors, but leaders. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the ruined skyline, Kale and Leora sat atop the settlement's highest watchtower. The wind tugged at Leora's cape, and her hair glowed red in the fading light. "You've changed," Kale said quietly. "Since the palace, since everything." She smiled faintly, looking out over the settlement. "We've changed. I'm not the same girl who ran through the palace, and you're not the same man who risked everything for me." Kale reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I don't care if the world changes us. As long as we face it together, I'm not afraid of anything." Her brown eyes met his, and for a long moment they simply held each other's gaze, hearts synchronized in silence. The danger outside didn't matter, not now. But just as the night settled, a scream echoed from the perimeter. Fires ignited in the distance. Shadows moved too fast to be human. Kale's instincts kicked in immediately, and he leapt to his feet, hand gripping Leora. "They found us," he said grimly. Leora's crystal flared to life in her hand, casting golden light across the tower. "Then we fight," she said, fierce and unyielding. "Together." And as darkness and chaos descended on the settlement, Kale realized something he had always known but never fully believed. Humans, even fragile and mortal, could endure anything, especially when love and trust gave them courage. Chaos erupted across the settlement. Shadows streaked through the streets, creatures faster and more ruthless than Kale had ever seen. Fires blazed in the distance, smoke twisting into the sky like dark fingers. The air was thick with fear, ash, and the scent of burning wood. Kale and Leora ran through the streets, side by side. His heart pounded, but it wasn't just fear, it was determination. Every step, every heartbeat was fueled by one thought: keep her safe. "Liara!" he shouted over the screams and clanging metal. She was ahead, crystal glowing fiercely in her hand, pushing back the attacking shadows. Her red cape was torn and blood-streaked, but she moved with an unstoppable force. "I'm right here," she yelled, twisting to throw a pulse of golden light that scattered several creatures. Kale grabbed her hand mid-run. "We need to get to the center. The palace's power, only there can we stop this." Together, they sprinted toward the settlement's ruined plaza, where a fractured monument of black stone mirrored the pedestal inside the palace. Kale's mind raced. The palace had unleashed something beyond their understanding, but here, together, they could confront it. The creatures closed in, claws scraping stone, teeth gnashing. Kale swung a jagged shard of metal, knocking one aside. Leora's crystal flared, a brilliant shield of gold and warmth. "Keep pushing!" she screamed, eyes burning with resolve. They reached the monument. Leora placed the crystal atop the fractured stone, and immediately the energy pulsed outward, golden light surging in waves. The shadows hissed, recoiling, but the black figure from the palace appeared again, larger, more terrifying, wings of darkness stretching into the sky. Kale stepped in front of Leora, fists clenched, and spoke through gritted teeth. "Not this time, not ever. You don't take her, you don't take us." The figure advanced, moving like a storm incarnate. Kale lunged, dodging a swipe, cutting at the minions that tried to flank them. Leora raised the crystal, channeling every ounce of strength, every memory of the palace, every pulse of survival they had endured. The light surged brighter than the sun. It struck the figure, shaking it, tearing at the shadows that clung to it. But it roared, gathering strength for one final assault. Kale realized they couldn't defeat it by force alone. They needed something more: trust, courage, and unity. "Kale," Leora shouted, tears streaking her dirt-covered face. "We have to do it together. Our bond, it's stronger than anything here." Kale grasped her hand tightly. "Together," he said. They concentrated, hearts and wills synced. The crystal blazed with golden energy, surrounding them in warmth and power. The shadows shrieked, the figure screeched, and the ground trembled violently. Then, in a brilliant explosion of light, the darkness shattered, scattering like smoke in the wind. Silence fell, the fires dimmed, the air cleared. The creatures were gone. The black-cloaked figure had vanished, leaving only a faint echo of blue energy that faded into nothing. Kale dropped to his knees, exhausted, and pulled Leora close. Her brown eyes shone with tears and relief. We did it," she whispered. Kale smiled, brushing a streak of grime from her cheek. "We survived, together." For the first time in days, the settlement was quiet, peaceful. Survivors emerged from hiding, cheering, staring at Kale and Leora as though they had witnessed miracles. Children ran forward, laughter breaking through the tension. Life was fragile, yes, but it had endured. Leora rested her head against Kale's shoulder. "You risked everything for me," she murmured. "Why?" Kale tightened his embrace. "Because I couldn't let you face it alone. Not then, not ever. You're more than survival, Leora. You're everything." Her lips curled into a smile. "And you are mine always." The sun rose higher, casting golden light across the ruins. The palace, distant now, seemed smaller, its shadow no longer threatening. Kale and Leora stood together, hands entwined, knowing the world was broken, but human spirit, courage, and love could rebuild it. Some dangers would always remain, some mysteries unsolved. But Kale and Leora had faced the impossible and survived, together. And nothing, not ruin, not darkness, not fear, could ever take that from them. The settlement would rebuild, the world would heal, and humanity, fragile yet unyielding, would endure. Kale looked at Leora and she returned his gaze, fierce and unwavering. The journey wasn't over, but they had each other. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.